All right, hello and good afternoon. Welcome to another HRAI Insider webinar. Today we are joined by the Technical Standards and Safety Authority, TSSA, and they're going to be presenting their 2023 Trunk Slammers Awareness and Enforcement Program. You can see them here. We've got Anil Lal, Fuel Safety Engineering and Technical Services Manager, and we've got Sam Sadeghi, Fuel Safety Director, and they're both going to be taking us through what the program is all about and why it matters to your business. So without further ado, one housekeeping item. We are recording this, so if you'd like to find it later, it'll be on HRAI's YouTube page. And we're also taking questions, so you can see at the bottom of your screen, you've got a Q&A button. Pop them in there. I'll jot them down, and you can also put them in chat as well. But now I'm going to turn it over to Anil and Sam, and I will be in the background. Cheers.
Very good. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Sam Sadeghi. I'm the Statutory Director of the Fuel Safety Team. It's my pleasure to be here today and join with my colleague Anil Lal to speak with you about the TSSA's Trunk Slammer campaign. Also, before I start, I'd like to take a moment and thank HRAI for organizing this webinar. I know a lot of planning goes into it, so thank you very much to HRAI. Let's see if I could share this. There you go. In terms of the agenda for today, I'm going to provide an overview about the fuel safety program. We will talk about the TSSA Trunk Slammer campaign, the certification requirements, obligation, and rights. We will talk about the lapsed authorization policy. Anil is going to go over some recent examples of the Trunk Slammer prosecutions, some of the successful prosecutions that we've had in the recent past. And we will talk about some of the fraudulent fuel worker reporting criteria, and we'll wrap it up with a Q&A. I did want to take a moment and go over the overview of the TSSA Fuel Safety Program and do an introduction about who we are as a team. So a lot of this may already be known, but it could also serve as a good refresher that the TSSA Fuel Safety Team, we are the regulator for the transportation, storage, handling, and use of fuel across Ontario. We carry out inspections and we license pipelines, we license gas stations, propane filling stations, marinas, and tanker trucks. We issue license to operate fuel facilities and pipelines. We register contractors, we certify trade persons who install and service fuel burning equipment across Ontario. We also accredit colleges and the trade schools that offer courses pursuant to the TSS Act, that's the Technical Standards Safety Act. We also review and approve facility plans for TSSA licensed sites, and we perform custom equipment approval and inspections to ensure that fuel is handled and used in a safe manner. Last but not least, we also investigate incidents and reports of non-compliance, and we also provide technical expertise to the industry and the other stakeholders. Here's a good visual in terms of the kind of different fuels that we regulate. So we regulate the transportation, storage, and handling, as well as the utilization of natural gas, and that includes compressed natural gas, liquefied natural gas, propane, fuel oil, gasoline, diesel. Hydrogen is also the new fuel that, there's a lot of movement happening in that sector, as you know. Landfill gas, digester gas, and butane. And our team is responsible for the administration, compliance, and enforcement with a number of regulations, such as the OREC 210 for oil and gas, OREC 211 for propane storage and handling, OREC 212 gaseous fuels, 213 fuel oils, 214 for compressed gas, 215 fuel industry certifications, et cetera, including 217. Another really good visual that just provides a breakdown of the type of certificate holders that we have. So across Ontario, as of May of 2022, there were about 71,900, close to 72,000 certificate holders in 30 plus categories that TSSA regulates. And as you would imagine, the majority of those happen to be the gas technicians, the G1s, G2, and G3. So that's about 45,000 or 61% of that total population. The second one is about 7,600 oil burner technicians, OBT1s, OBT2s, and OBT3s. We have about 7% as gas piping fitters, inspectors. We got petroleum mechanics, industrial maintenance technicians, etc. So about 72,000 certificate holders. There are about 8,400 registered contractors across Ontario, more than 7,900 licensed sites. In an annual basis, we do about 2,400 contractor audits, and we do over 3,000. We issue more than 3,000 compliance orders in a given year. And the team consists of about 35 inspectors. We have 2 investigators on a full-time basis that work with us. So today, speaking about the Trunk Slammer campaign, really a lot of the good work that's happening in that area is through Anil's team and investigators that we have, along with the inspectors. We have a team of about 15 engineers. We do more than 3,000 initial and periodic inspections of licensed facilities, more than 6,000 follow-up visits. On the engineering side, we do more than 1,000 design reviews, etc. And speaking of people and the team that we are also hiring. We have a number of inspector positions open across Ontario. So if you know someone who is interested, please get the word out to your network. If they're interested in an impactful career with TSSA to really help us move the needle with respect to keeping Ontario safe, we're asking people to check out our career site and apply. Some of the examples of the current vacant positions that we're recruiting for include regional supervisor for the GTA area, as well as the inspector positions across Ontario, particularly in Northern Ontario. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Anil, who's going to talk about the Trunk Slammer campaign. Anil, over to you.
Thank you very much, Sam. Appreciate that. And welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon, or during your lunch hour. We really appreciate all of you, spending time with us right now during a busy work day. Everyone's busy out there in the field. So let's get right to the matter here. Let's talk a little bit about what is a Trunk Slammer, what is our initiative about. So what is a Trunk Slammer? A Trunk Slammer in TSSA's eyes are uncertified gas technicians and unregistered contractors who are not certified or registered with us in any way. Their work is not subject to TSSA audits for compliance with safety requirements. Their knowledge, competency, and qualifications cannot be validated. They don't receive any updates or bulletins from manufacturers or any other safety information and training. And there's, of course, no assurance that they will comply with safety regulations, since they have already disregarded the law by working outside of registration or certification schemes. They are known for performing less expensive labor with cheaper, unsafe materials and parts, hence putting the Ontario public at risk of harm through poor workmanship. For TSSA, when we talk about Trunk Slammer campaign, it really is focused on fuel-related risks in private dwellings in Ontario, an area that's not easy for TSSA to really, constantly monitor and look after, because it's just a huge area. It's a huge sector. It's your home furnace. It's everyone's, in their place of home where their family lives. It's not an industrial space where, TSSA can look at very closely. And so we rely on well-trained and experienced contractors out there, such as yourselves, taking care of your customers and maintaining high standards. Of course, for us, we're looking to eliminate inadequate installations and poor maintenance work from those that are not qualified to do the work properly. Our data shows that this is definitely a huge area of constant ongoing risk. And of course, it affects all of us in our homes, for our families and loved ones. So to address the issue, TSSA launched, I've got a slide here. Launched our first campaign about 3 years ago to kind of start to really raise awareness for Trunk Slammers specifically, and then we're in our third year now, in partnership with a lot of other organizations who also use March as Fraud Prevention Month. TSSA is a proud member of the Fraud Prevention Forum, co-chaired by the Competition Bureau of Canada, along with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. Although we make a big deal of this situation in March, it's something you can probably see on our social media campaigns on Twitter, LinkedIn, or Facebook. You can probably see a lot of our postings recently. TSSA focuses on pursuing uncertified gas technicians and unregistered contractors all year round. So it's not just a March thing, but we really want to focus in March and get synergies along with all the other organizations talking about fraud prevention. So you may have seen some of our pamphlets that TSSA produces in conjunction with our partners here at HRAI to help educate consumers who don't often deal with fuel professionals. Like most of us really only deal with the experts when we have a problem, and often by then it's too late. These checklists, which you can see on the right here on the screen, the qualified contractor checklist and the fuels professional verification checklist, are available online and in print, and they're meant to be really easy to read and help homeowners and regular consumers understand what to look for before they hire someone to get the job done in their home, right? If you'd like to get copies, feel free to contact us. We have that information readily available. Thank you. So along with the paper pamphlets, TSSA also spends some, we have a budget on digital outreach every year to get in front of homeowners and remind them of the importance of hiring contractors such as yourselves, registered and certified fuel contractors. We have a Kijiji ad, which you can kind of see in the middle there of this picture, which pops up when people type in a series of keywords connected to our industry. Some of our data shows that it has been viewed tens of thousands of times, and we think it's been quite effective in getting in front of customers when they're thinking of getting something done at home and making them think about who they're going to hire and making sure that the next contractor they hire is registered and licensed. So with all that outreach, where are we getting our leads from? Well, trunk slammer reports come from ex-employees of illegal businesses who are unsatisfied with their participation, but primarily they come from unsatisfied customers who have hired unqualified people to perform fuel-related work. And that's dangerous and unsafe. Between March 2022 and March 2023, TSSA received 39 trunk slammer reports. Of those reports, 19 were confirmed to be valid complaints, which were followed up by our investigators. And I'll talk a little bit more about some of those cases that led to prosecution towards the end of this slide, or this presentation, rather. And just right here in the middle, if anyone wants to take a screenshot of this page, here's how to contact us and let us know if you have any information that could give us a lead on pursuing trunk slammers and uncertified technicians. The number is 1-877-682-TSSA, which is 8772. And our email is customerservices@tssa.org. If you want to remain anonymous with TSSA's third-party whistleblower service, you can email us at tssa@integritycounts.ca. And with that, I'll turn it over back to Sam to talk a little bit more about certification requirements, obligations, and rights.
Thank you, Anil. So I'm going to go over some definitions just to kind of refresh everybody's memory and make sure that we're all on the same page. But as per OREC 212, it says that no person shall install, alter, purge, activate, repair, service, or remove any appliance, equipment, or other thing employed or to be employed in the handling or use of gas. unless the person is the holder of a certificate for that purpose. So we have a pretty clear definition in terms of who can and cannot do any kind of work on any kind of a gas equipment. A contractor is a person who carries on, in whole or in part, the business of installing, removing, repairing, altering, or servicing appliances, and includes a person or an agent of a person who agrees to install, remove, repair, alter, or service appliances sold or leased by the person. Registration of the contractor. No person shall act as a contractor in Ontario unless the person is registered for that purpose. And that's really the registration with TSSA. And the certificate holder is a person who has obtained a certificate from the director designating the person as one of the designations in Ontario under OREC 215. So for example, a G1, a G2, a G3, etc. To obtain a gas technician certificate issued under OREC 215, a certification candidate must successfully complete a TSSA accredited training program, which includes both in-class theoretical as well as the hands-on practical components. And in order to attain certification, a certification candidate must maintain 80% attendance during the program, score over 75% on the practical components and the modules within a training program, and score greater than 75% on the TSSA Ontario Certificate of Qualification examination. And there's also another path to obtaining certification, and that is to submit a detailed documentation providing the necessary proof of work experience to demonstrate equivalency of training and also score greater than 75% in the exam. So that's what we call the challenge process. Once certified, a gas technician has the opportunity to immediately start working with a TSSA registered heating contractor and or become a TSSA registered heating contractor. It just must be noted that a gas technician with a G3 certification must be supervised by a G1, G2, or a DA certificate holder in these cases. That person also has the opportunity to start working immediately without serving an apprenticeship term. Is responsible to uphold the public safety by discontinuing the use of an appliance or work upon identifying an unacceptable condition that constitutes an immediate hazard. So essentially, if a certificate holder comes across a non-compliance or a safety issue, they have the obligation to ensure that they red tag it and they discontinue the use of that appliance. That person has the ability to work independently or within a team in a variety of work environments, including residential and commercial and industrial setting with the scope of the certification, right? So depending on what kind of certification you hold, we got to make sure that the work you're doing is within the scope of that certificate, and has the right to use the phrase TSSA certified in advertising and the promotional material. Speaking of advertising, I think it's important to just refresh everybody's memory about while TSSA authorized companies and individuals may refer to TSSA by company name in text of their website and marketing material, TSSA does not grant the use of its logo without express permission. TSSA will only grant express permission to use its logo when TSSA is directly involved in delivering a safety initiative. Unauthorized use of the TSSA logo may cause confusion or public deception and depreciates TSSA's goodwill as Ontario's public safety regulator. So clearly we can't have people just with like a TSSA logo on their vehicles, on their business cards, on their hard hats, on their vest, because that's going to cause confusion in the public, and certain individuals can also use that to their own benefits. Any salespeople who misrepresent themselves as a TSSA inspector by wearing or showing a TSSA logo or claiming to be from TSSA have to be reported to TSSA, and we take those cases very seriously, and those are some of the top priority items that we assign to our investigators to look into. Any unauthorized use of a TSSA's brand identity or logo by any company or contractor, including those selling fuel-fired appliances or energy services, will face an aggressive legal response, right? So if our ask from you is that if you come across, individuals or contractors that are using the TSSA logo on their vehicles, on their business cards, on their uniforms, please make sure that you report them to us. Here are just like a few small examples. So these are the ones that have been brought to our attention. I mean, we have many different examples to bring up, but I'm just going to use this one, for instance, which is a business card. We have blurred out the names of the individuals that were involved with this. They were using the TSSA logo on their business cards, as well as vehicles that would have a TSSA logo printed on them. So let's make sure that they get reported to us. Some of the best practices for contractors that we've talked about in the previous years as well is to create and regularly update a database of the employee certificates. Make a habit of validating certificates on a monthly or quarterly basis during the company meetings, toolbox talks, safety meetings, etc. Ensure that a certificate holder carry a copy of their pocket certificates on them when they're performing the work, or they have the ability to access that quickly. This is really important. And the other thing is also, it just reminds people if their certificate is expired or is about to expire, and it would be also a good opportunity to remind folks about the scope of their certification as part of the discussions that take place on the quarterly meetings or the toolbox talks. Contractors are responsible for ensuring the technicians they hire are licensed to perform the work they're assigned. So it's really the contractor's responsibility to ensure that the employees they hire are, number one, that they have a valid certificate, and also to make sure that the work that you assign to them is within the scope of their certificate. To find out the level and the validity of a technician certificate, please call TSSA at 1-877-682-8772 and have the certificate number or the technician's full legal name, date of birth, and address, so that we could validate that for you. Shifting gear, I'm going to talk about the lapsed authorization policy. So this is something that we talked about last year as well. So it's a fairly new policy, but on May 1 of 2021, TSSA implemented a lapsed authorization reinstatement procedure to help regulated parties to keep their authorizations in good standing and remain compliant with safety laws. So when we talk about authorization, we're talking about, let's say the contractor registration, right? In order to achieve compliance, TSSA provides regulated parties with notice of authorization renewal on a number of occasions using various outreach methods. TSSA's process to renew authorization begins 60 days before the renewal date and ends when the authorization is resolved, right? So 60 days before the renewal, before the expiry date, there will be a renewal invoice that gets sent out to the certificate holder. 60 days after expiry, authorization expiry reminder letter. 67 days after expiry, authorization expiry reminder phone call from TSSA. 76 days after expiry, authorization expiry reminder phone call from TSSA inspector. And 83 days after expiry, arrangements for shutdown of operation by TSSA inspector. So it is critical that your contact information, your mailing address, your phone numbers, etc., are up to date and valid with TSSA, so that we make sure that the renewals are sent to the right person at the right time. So we've seen that since we launched the program to date, with approximately 42%, or about 7,800 of all the lapsed authorizations in the fuel safety program are by the contractors who have let their registration expire. And many of those individuals, they were obviously busy with many other things and they didn't get around to this. And of those contractors, approximately 96% of them are heating fuel contractors. So many of the folks on this call, this would be relevant to them. So since the start of the program, TSSA, we have seen a very good success rate of 94% of the contractors in the fuel safety program with lapse authorization have renewed their registrations or have resolved their lapse authorization, meaning that we have confirmation that the business is no longer operating. And in November of 2022, so just about let's say 5-6 months ago, we implemented a historical lapsed authorization resolution procedure to address fuel safety authorizations that expired prior to April 30th, 2021. So anything that basically expired prior to April 30th, 2021 is part of the historical lapsed authorizations, and the one after that were part of the lapsed authorization program that I spoke about. So since November of 2022, we have implemented also the historic lapsed authorization program to ensure that anyone with an expired license that had a license prior to April 30th, 2021, they also have an opportunity to renew, or we confirm that they're no longer operating. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Anil, who's going to go over some very interesting recent examples of prosecutions for some trunk slammers. Anil, over to you.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, and thanks everybody. So we've with all the campaign and policy information recapped, let's go over some of let's go over some of the recent successful TSSA prosecutions. As the courts have reopened up after the pandemic, our investigators and legal team have been working closely to bring some of these violators to justice. And let's talk about some of them. So number one, recent conviction this past November 2022, an Oshawa man, Mr. Robert William Seeger, pled guilty to installing a natural gas furnace without a TSSA issued gas technician certificate. Mr. Seeger, who has not held a valid TSSA certificate since 2008, had entered into a verbal contract with an Oshawa homeowner to supply and install a complete HVAC system and water heater. After installing the water heater, the man did not return to complete the full scope of agreed work, for which he'd been paid $13,300. The homeowner obviously was upset and reported the situation to TSSA, and that's when we were able to follow up, review Mr. Seeger's situation. His license had expired in 2008, and thus he was performing work in violation of the TSS Act. And the conviction led to a fine where Mr. Seeger will pay a fine of $4,000 plus 25% victim fine surcharge. So this is right up in the trunk slammer space right here. Another one, in January 2023 of this year, Zufeng Yu, operating under the business name of Lucky Air, pled guilty to one count of repairing a natural gas appliance without a TSSA issued gas technician certificate, and one count of knowingly making a false statement or furnishing false information. Mr. Zhu, who has not held a valid TSSA certificate since 2018, had entered into a verbal contract with a Toronto homeowner to repair a natural gas furnace, which had previously been issued a hazard tag by Enbridge Gas. Upon completing the repairs, Mr. Zhu signed the hazard tag with the name of another individual that held a valid TSSA certificate, thereby indicating someone else's legal authority and hazard had been cleared. This is, of course, a complete violation of the Act, and he was ordered to pay a fine of $7,000 for both counts, plus 25% victim surcharge. As you can see, our team has been on a roll. Right here, fresh off the press this month in March, we recently received a conviction regarding Mike Hogan of Mike Hogan Plumbing and Heating, who pled guilty to one count of failing to take every precaution reasonable in the circumstances to ensure that the persons employed complied with the Act and had never, sorry, I got the wrong list here. Mr. Hogan, a G2 certificate holder himself, had dispatched an employee to perform the installation of a natural gas water heater, but this employee had never held any certificate, license, or registration with TSSA. Mr. Hogan pled guilty and was subject to a fine of $6,000 plus 25% victim surcharge fee, and ordered to pay that within 3 months. So if you're a contractor and you send out technicians that are not registered, please don't do that. That's a violation. And then most recently, as of just a few days ago, one of the largest fines imposed in a few years, TSSA successfully prosecuted Zlatko Antonov of Jolanta Plumbing for altering exhaust venting on a natural gas boiler without holding a TSSA gas certificate. Mr. Antonov had never held a valid TSA certificate and had a prior conviction from TSSA for working without a certificate. And due to the danger posed by Antonov's unauthorized work, which resulted in a CO leak and injury to the homeowner, the Ontario Court of Justice ordered Antonov to pay one of the largest fines of $30,000 plus a victim surcharge within 180 days. Quoting Sam on this, a fine of this magnitude sends a clear message to Antonov and those participating in the underground market that performing fuels work without a TSA certificate is a serious violation of Ontario's public safety laws and will not be tolerated. And yeah, this is really a testament to our legal team and our investigations team who have really been all over the cases that we put together here. And a lot of work goes into each one of these cases because you got to get all the information to get it through a successful prosecution. So I really want to thank everybody at the TSSA team for doing that. And again here, we really rely on you guys out there in the field to get us that information. And here again, get those reports to us. Here's the number, here's the email address, and we will do our best to make this a fair and safe marketplace for all our legitimate contractors like you guys, and obviously keep our families and loved ones safe. So with that, thank you, and I'll turn it over back to Sam for any final comments.
Thank you, Anil. I think you covered it really well. I mean, as we bring this presentation to an end, I do want to thank all the participants for your commitment to safety and for your collaboration with TSSA. Our job is to keep Ontario safe, and the only way we could do it is through a good partnership with the industry. And our ask is if you come across situations as someone who's unauthorized doing work, please don't turn a blind eye on that. They could put someone and a family's life at risk, and they have to be dealt with. And this also creates a level playing ground for everyone in the industry who is certified and has gone through the certification process. So with that being said, we could open it up for questions.
Thank you so much. And if you do want to ask questions, please pop them in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen or the chat box. I've got a couple of questions for you too. Oh, wait, here we go. Natalie Brooks, is the gas license going to be an apprenticeship? Red seal, possibly. Landscaping is a red seal, but gas license is not. And that's scary, she says.
Yeah. So good question. There's obviously, I think for many people, they know that there is talks happening between Skilled Trade Ontario and TSSA with respect to the red seal trade, and gas is actually one of them. What I can share with you is that we're working with the STO, Skilled Trade Ontario, on the process of how that's going to work out and what exactly that apprenticeship program is going to look like. We don't have any specific details to share, but there will be more information to be developed. We're in the process of assembling a working group with the appropriate ministries to ensure that there is a clear path forward available on that direction.
Fantastic. From Jeff, can TSSA or HRAI enforce the Greener Homes Grant program? Many contractors have voiced concern about fraud and are asking how this program can be policed. I know this most likely does not fall within the scope of what TSSA can enforce. So take that as you will, but a comment from the audience.
Yeah, I mean, what I can share with you is I'll go back to the list of the regulations that is within our jurisdiction. Here we go. So here's a list of the regulations and legislations that are with us. And so if there's anything to do with any of the regulations that are listed here, yes, we will be responsible for ensuring compliance and enforcement. But if it's outside of those, that will not be within TSSA's mandate.
Just to add to that, Jeff, if you want to send us information about that, we could look into, or at least try to understand how it fits in the regulation. Just, we don't really look at anything commercial, so to say, right? So if this is a financial fraud, that's not necessarily what we look at, but we can try to parse it and see where aspects of it that fall under us can be evaluated.
Thank you so much. Another question from Natalie. Are you going to let homeowners know that only licensed contractors are allowed to install equipment in a home, not just gas licensed technicians?
Yeah, great question. I mean, we are using various outreach programs to educate homeowners about this, right? I mean, today's webinar is an example of us trying to get the word out. But at the end of the day, this is the kind of a message that we as an entire industry have to make sure that homeowners are aware of the fact that if anyone's doing any gas work for them, they have to be licensed by TSSA. They have the right to ask for their license. They have the right to contact TSSA. And as a matter of fact, I think the slide that we had that shows the list of the questions to ask, that's the kind of stuff that we want to make sure that the homeowners actually have available to them. So I'm just trying to bring up that slide in here. There you go. I think this is available on HRAI website. So we call it the Fuels Professional Verification Checklist, right? So ask to see if the individual has a well-marked vehicle, ask for proper identification and a business card, tell them you'll get back to them, do your research, contact after you have verified their credentials, right? And you contact TSSA to verify it. So this is really the kind of thing that we want to make sure that the word goes out, but it's incumbent upon all of us as an industry to do that education. TSSA plays a big part of it, but we're not the only one that can educate the public on that.
Thank you so much. No more questions as of yet. So I'm going to just take the opportunity to let people know of upcoming webinars while they ask us more questions. So if you'd like to join informative webinars like this, head over to the hrai.ca/events page. We got a lot coming up in April, actually. Top hiring mistakes and how to avoid them. That's workforce development. High efficiency heating for high ceiling and large spaces. We got the Refrigeration series by Phil Boudreau, who had to miss it last month, but is coming back to do that again. And also got some green energy radiant heating solutions. So we got a bunch going on, just like this excellent presentation. So please head over to hrai.ca/events to check those out and register today. And I hope, oh, Natalie again. So back to you guys. Are there social media posts we can share for the TSSA?
Absolutely. If you actually, I mean, I'm aware of multiple social media posts that we have on LinkedIn, on Kijiji, on those are the places that you will see the posts. But I see the LinkedIn posts all the time, trying to educate the public about that. So if you actually go on the TSSA LinkedIn page, I'm sure you could see those. And
Twitter as well. Twitter and Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not very active on Twitter myself, but yeah, so they are on Twitter as well.
Fantastic. Sam, Anil, thank you so much for joining us today. Some really good, important information. And you gave your contact information so people can reach out after the fact with further questions. This will be available on HRAI's YouTube page. And any parting thoughts?
No, I just want to thank you and the HRAI for facilitating this webinar, and thank the industry and the members for the commitment to safety and the collaboration.
Well said. All right, guys, let's head into the weekend. Thanks so much.
All right. Have a
Cheers.
great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.